La Amazonía es la selva tropical más grande y diversa del mundo, con 6,8 millones de kilómetros cuadrados de bosque, 1 millón de kilómetros cuadrados de ecosistemas de agua dulce, hogar de 34 millones de personas, entre ellas más de 350 grupos indígenas y miles de especies. Esta región cubre 9 países en Sudamérica: Bolivia, Brasil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Guyana Francesa, Perú, Surinam y Venezuela. El avance de la destrucción de la Amazonía está empujando al ecosistema amazónico a un punto de transformación sin retorno. Los 9 países que constituyen la región amazónica viven la misma experiencia. Está bajo constante amenaza de deforestación, minería, expansión de la agricultura, actividad ilegal y matanza sistemática de líderes y lideresas sociales.
Well, there are many threats, and you can hear many things being described as being the main threats. But when you really look at what is happening, what are the deforested lands used for? It is almost always one single product that is driving the deforestation, and that is pastures for cattle raising, for beef meat. It's that one product that is responsible for using maybe 80% of all deforested lands. Just beef meat, and it's incredible. Just one product. And how can it be just one product? Well, it's because cattle is an incredibly inefficient method of converting food, grass, to beef.
Brasil es el mayor exportador de carne de res del mundo. Esta actividad corresponde al 7% del Producto Interno Bruto del país y supone el 4,6% de sus exportaciones. Brasil perdió aproximadamente el 18% de su Amazonas original.
The second biggest threat is soy. Most of the remaining 20% is soy. Then a third is timber. Timber does not destroy the lands entirely. You take out some trees, but it damages it, and you build roads for the timber. So which opens up for the other activities. And the fourth major one is the one that makes all the others possible, which is roads, building of roads. So those four would be the main, cattle, soy, timber, roads. And then of course there are, there's mining, and oil is hugely important in selected areas. Even if the actual deforestation is small, there's lots of other actions happening from it. Hydroelectric dams is another. And now almost 20% of the Amazon is gone. Which means it's cut down, which means that there is simply less evapotranspiration happening. What could happen? It's very brutal, is savannization of parts of the Amazon, where the rain is not enough in the driest months. The dry season becomes too long for the rainforest to survive, and you get something resembling savanna. And we can already see the beginnings of that. Not the beginnings of savanna, but there is a higher mortality of trees that are most vulnerable to a long period of low rainfall. You already see this happening in parts of the Amazon. It's so terrible. On top of that, you have global warming, which tends to cause the interior of continents to be drier and hotter. So you have a climate change double, the rainforest cut down and global warming. It's a double barrel on the Amazon. And we now have the worst drought in 100 years in South and Central Brazil. It's a sad situation for the Amazon. We have in Brazil, we have over 11,000 square kilometers cut down in the last 12 months we have statistics for. It's going up each year, 50% more than last year. In Colombia, it's rising over 3,000 square kilometers. In Peru, it's almost 3,000. It's been going up 3 years in a row. In Ecuador, it's smaller, of course. The country is smaller, but as a percentage, it's high and it's rising. So I'm sad to say, it's very sad. The Amazon is really threatened.
Bolivia ya perdió cerca del 8% de su bosque original. En 2017, la deforestación de Colombia fue una de las mayores de la región amazónica y la más alta en la historia del país. Se perdieron más de 140.000 hectáreas de bosque, el doble que el año anterior. Hasta ahora Ecuador ha perdido un 10% de su bosque amazónico. Perú ha perdido alrededor del 8% de su bosque original. Venezuela encabeza el número de minas ilegales en la Amazonía y ha perdido cerca del 4% de su bosque original. Los gobiernos han hecho compromisos inspiradores con las áreas protegidas y el desarrollo sostenible. Pero es la sociedad civil en el territorio quienes genuinamente están comprometidas con la protección y restauración de la Amazonía.
Communities are in danger when outsiders want their forest resources and they will not be bribed to let them have it because they know that that money in hand is just not worth it in the long run. They can become in danger.
Estuvimos haciendo un recorrido de gran importancia porque estamos observando y mostrando a los visitantes la importancia que tiene para nosotros como comunidad, como zona de reserva, conservar nuestros ecosistemas, nuestra fauna, nuestra flora, para así poder tener una mejor proyección hacia el futuro, no tanto para lucrarnos nosotros económicamente, sino para proteger, ser guardianes de nuestros bosques, para que haya conectividad ecológica, para que haya recurso hídrico hacia futuro. No solo estamos hablando de el presente, sino que tenemos que pensar en nuestro futuro, no solo nosotros, nuestros hijos y el de toda la comunidad.
Hoy estamos aquí en la zona de reserva campesina, la cabecera del corregimiento de la zona de reserva. Esta es la finca piloto de la organización y estamos en el vivero. El vivero se llama Nuevo Amanecer, donde se están recuperando especies que ya están prácticamente en vía de extinción, de árboles, donde se están haciendo experimentos y donde también se está enseñando. Nosotros pretendemos trabajar con el tema de conectividad de bosques para hacer posible los corredores biológicos, podernos conectar no solamente dentro del mismo departamento del Putumayo, sino con otros departamentos, incluso con poder extender este tema de la Amazonía, todo este compromiso que hay con la Amazonía, porque seguimos diciendo que somos Amazonía, no somos distrito minero, ni estamos dentro de una propuesta de desarrollo, digamos, grande con el tema de producción, sino que esto tiene que ser un desarrollo acorde con el tema de la conservación y la recuperación.
Olá, eu me chamo Claudinete Colé, eu moro no quilombo Boa Vista Cambritas e hoje eu trabalho na ARC, que é a associação que representa 37 comunidades quilombolas aqui no município. A ARC é uma associação que ela foi fundada em 1989 aqui no município de Oriximiná, com o objetivo de representar as comunidades remanescentes de quilombos, lutar pela titulação das terras, já que os nossos ancestrais, nossos bisavôs, quando eles começaram a habitar essa região aqui, eles fugiram, das grandes fazendas dos municípios de Óbidos, Santarém, Alenquer, Belém. Eles fugiram e foram habitar as cachoeiras, o alto das cachoeiras. Então, desde essa época em que eles formaram os antigos mocambos, e eles viram que não tinha mais, eles não corriam mais o risco de ser capturado, eles vieram formando os quilombos aqui no município de Oriximiná. Então hoje nós temos 37 comunidades quilombolas e cada uma com uma diversidade, com uma cultura, com um saber diferenciado uma das outras. Então é uma mistura de cultura, de identidade que a gente tem desse povo negro aqui no município de Oriximiná. E a Arquimo, mais do que nunca, como uma associação mãe, é uma associação que realmente ela luta para defender, para preservar essa cultura, para buscar melhorias de qualidade de vida para essas famílias que estão nesses quilombos. Então, eu sou a primeira mulher à frente dessa associação, eu estou no meu segundo mandato na Arquimo, então eu vejo que é um desafio muito grande para nós, com uma população de aproximadamente umas 13 mil pessoas dentro desses quilombos. A gente tem que saber manter o equilíbrio da comunidade com o meio ambiente. Sempre trabalhar a questão da sustentabilidade, né? Buscar as melhorias das questões socioeconômicas, do acesso às políticas públicas para dentro das nossas comunidades, trabalhar fortemente com relação ao combate do racismo e do preconceito, que ainda é muito forte aqui no nosso município, com o nosso povo negro, e também voltar para essa questão da sustentabilidade mesmo, manter o equilíbrio e preservar nossas florestas, que é a nossa casa, é o nosso meio, é onde nós vivemos.
Soy Fanny Gaviria, presidenta de la Corporación Manigua. Desde el programa Género y Derechos de la Corporación, acompañamos procesos comunitarios del territorio orientados hacia el empoderamiento social, económico, político, ambiental, promoviendo acciones concretas que favorecen y mejoran su posición y capacidad de participación y negociación para la incidencia. El programa desarrolla 3 líneas de acción: gestoras, que son procesos con mujeres; mutantes, que son procesos con hombres; y jugando a la paz, que acompaña procesos de infancia y adolescencia. Desde los enfoques de género y diversidad, derechos, memoria histórica y construcción de paz, tejemos nuevas maneras de cuidar la vida. Nuestro principal reto, la construcción de una ciudadanía que participe, proponga, sostenga y vigile una apuesta de desarrollo regional.
Nosotros en este trabajo venimos dinamizando acciones con alrededor de 130 organizaciones sociales de base en 15 de los 16 municipios del departamento. Nosotros les hemos denominado a estos grupos redes de pobladores, y estas redes pues se han conformado a través de diferentes colectivos, tanto de adultos como de jóvenes, donde se especifican líneas temáticas como comunicación, juventud, medio ambiente, plataformas juveniles, entre otros temas como medio ambiente y paz.
Protect the forests against big odds. And when they do this, of course, they get, first you have threats made in person or over social media or by physical signs, and then it can go over into violence and even murder. Well, on paper, all the governments are saying and writing that they are protecting the Amazon. Everyone has some good papers and policies to show up. But as the deforestation figures show, they are not really caring. They are not. You mentioned the Escazú. Oh yes, I know the Escazú agreement. It's a wonderful agreement. It's I think it's the first in the world of its kind, and it's only Latin American countries that have signed on to it, that show that give environmental justice, that show, give access to environmental information and participation in environmental policy making, that explicitly states that states have the right, must protect environmental rights defenders who are threatened. And almost all Amazon countries have signed it, but as far as I know, only, Bolivia, Ecuador, and Guyana have ratified it under something that's happened in the last few months. For example, Brazil and Colombia haven't or hadn't until recently, and it's environmental rights defenders are not being protected. More murders and threats have gone up. Well, it's crucial from several aspects. One is, of course, the people. I mean, we have 3 million indigenous peoples from, I think it's 350 ethnic groups living in the Amazon. So that is their cultural and social and economic survival depends on the rainforests. And we have a total of about 40 million people in total living in the Amazon. From small villages to the biggest city, Manaus, with 2 million people. And they are also dependent on the rain. I mean, if the rainforest gets cut down, it will be destructive for them too, because in terms of just having water, having not having a water supply, having a decent climate. So the people is that's to start off with. Of course, as you say, it's obvious, but it needs to be repeated. The climate. It's if the Amazon gets the trees gets down and gets burnt up, we'll have billions of tons of carbon dioxide released. That will make the whole world hotter, and it's already a significant percentage, 10 to 15% of the climate gases emissions of the world are because of forest cut down. The third biggest thing is biodiversity, all those plants and animals living there. It's that's what it's. I mean, we're talking about the sixth big, the extinction of all times that's coming. That's already starting. It's fantastic, the intricacy of the biodiversity, the great connection and interdependence of all the plant and animal species living there, that the great majority cannot survive outside the rainforest. And they are already disappearing. Many of them, we don't know what they are. The diversity is staggering. Well, starting with civil society, we can do a lot. Much of the best things are best done by civil society. As you see on paper, it's all fine. We shouldn't need to do hardly anything because the government is there, but the government isn't implementing. So civil society has to be there, and the communities are the basis. The indigenous peoples, the slave descendant communities, the extractivist and riverine communities, small farmers, they are the basis. And I think, we have to, it's a matter of supporting them to do what they have the potential to do. Because they often need support. As I mentioned earlier, it's organization, having organizations, simple organizations in place, having some economic development projects in place, having defense in place, all these things. But I think we cannot only work with communities, we have to look really broadly we must look at the people who cut down the forest too. And the biggest cutters are the cattle owners. Big ranchers, middle ranchers, but also smaller cattle owners. We must work with them too, not just see them as our enemies. I mean, they are making a living, and so we have to work with them, and it's possible. Yes, we need another model that thinks longer term. We need some kind of different things. Taxation of carbon dioxide. When you do this, when you burn up this, it's a huge cost to everyone, particularly the local populations and in the municipality, but to the whole world. It should be paid for. If there was a true cost for carbon dioxide and for biodiversity and for infringing on the rights of the people, local peoples, then it wouldn't be economical to cut down the forest. There should be a cost attached to it, a big cost, and then it wouldn't be done. Carbon credits. I mean, it's being investigated and put in place. That could be one model for doing it. More and better international development assistance would be it. There is one tax. I hope it is still in place. I haven't checked, but there is one tax in Brazil, actually. A very small percentage of the value-added tax that is paid to municipalities, which keep a large amount of their municipality forested. That is very good.